Jordan with Boss Up Marketing, where, because marketing is everywhere we are, everything is on the table for discussion. Today, I am excited because we're going to talk about my take on the top 5 commercials from the 2022 Super Bowl 56. Okay. Everybody's been talking about it and everybody has their points of view, and I am weighing in. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm also doing some different things. I found an interesting app for Chromebook called Loom, and it allows me to kind of show my face along with a presentation that I put together for this. So in case I wanted to share this with a student or something who wasn't in class, I could actually use the Loom app, construct this sort of lesson and then go on. So bear with me as I try this thing out for the first time. But before we even dive in, I want you to go and do all of the things that you do to get the word out and spread all the news about this Boss Up Marketing channel. So please go do the likes, the shares, the notifications, all of the things. Okay, go do all of the things. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. I do have notes I'm going to be referring to because, honey, I had to really do some analysis on this thing. I had to give some serious thought to this thing, but I'm going to go through it as quickly as I can and explain some things as we go along, that sort of thing. So if hopefully you can see my screen, I'm going to put it on slideshow mode with the Google Slides, and let's see what happens. Bit of a delay here, but hold please. Here we go. So this is the cover page for it. So mind you, there may be something that I'm thinking is a clip and it's actually, it might be some talking in there depending on where I got the clip from. I was just looking at the amount of time, just trying to get you a piece of it, so disclaimer up front. All right. So here we go. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what promotion is and the 4 types of promotion. I'm going to share just a few fun facts about my experience with this whole Super Bowl commercial weekend thing. Selection criteria. I did want to make it clear that this just wasn't haphazard that I came up with these top 5. I really had a decision matrix that I put together, and I'll share with you what those categories were that helped me arrive at my findings. And then I'm going to go in reverse order from an honorable mention, and I'll tell you why I gave it that. From 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're gonna get to the top, and then the last thing that I'll mention is what I'm calling the Coup Award, and I'll explain that in just a second. All right. So what is promotion? Let's talk about that. So promotion is any form of communication that is designed to do 3 things: inform, persuade, or remind consumers about a good or a service, a product or a service. And, if you are shopping and you see some enticing things that are alluring you and convincing and enticing you to buy or buy more of, or take a look at, or sample, or, enter a contest or sweepstakes, anything like that, watching TV, listening to the radio, and you hear these commercials, all of these things are forms of promotion. Okay, so that is essentially what it is. So remember that promotion informs, persuades, or reminds consumers about a product or service. Now, there are 4 types of promotion, okay? There's advertising, right, which is paid for. You have to pay. We'll talk about how much these folks are paying for these Super Bowl ads, honey. We'll talk about that in a second. There is sales promotion, there's public relations, and then there is personal selling. So without going too deeply into those, essentially you need to know that advertising is a paid for form of communication, right? With public relations, you may have publicity, which is free, word of mouth, articles you can place in the paper, and get a mention, or you can hire a public relations firm to create a narrative that gives your company a good, positive image in the minds of consumers. So there's the whole public relations piece. Think Olivia Pope, honey. Think that. Then you have direct selling, which is direct, personalized, customized communication between the buyer and the seller. And you see that when you go into a retail store and they greet you and then they ask you if you need help, and then they sort of, give you the lay of the land with the store and help you out ultimately for you to commit to a purchase and then perhaps other things. And then you have the whole sales promotion. That's where you're talking contests, sweepstakes, coupons, all of the things that are encouraging your purchase. That is what promotion is all about. Now, today we're talking about advertising as the form of promotion. Okay. So a couple of things. The first thing, I probably watched, if 43 that I know of, close to 50 that I can conclude. I know that the last I counted was 43 commercials that I watched during Super Bowl night, from the pregame going into all through during the game, halftime, you name it. I sat there and watched all of the commercials because I wanted to make an informed decision. I wanted to see what these companies were spending this money on. Another tidbit is that historically, the Super Bowl is a night where we experience the lowest crime rate ever. And so everybody's watching the Super Bowl, which is pretty cool. And for a 30-second spot, we call it TV spot, an ad for during the Super Bowl, these companies are paying $7 million and some change. Okay, $7 million for 30 seconds of our time, if we're even paying attention. But here's the thing: this commercial will reach at least 100 million people, at least. And this is like historic numbers. So just saying, is the juice worth the squeeze on that? The jury's out. We'll see. Hopefully, these companies that did make this investment spent wisely and thought well and organized and planned their advertising well for that much money. There's so many different angles we can take on that. But just know that those were just some fun facts I wanted to share, which I always think are so interesting, right? Now, let's talk about my selection criteria. This is where I pulled my little notes, okay? I had 8 categories identified in my decision matrix, and a lot of these categories are coming from my professional corporate marketing experience where, I was actually on teams that produced, we have commercials and print ads and TV and radio, all sorts of integrated marketing plans. So the criteria are things that I would have to present to, say, a director or a VP, senior level person, to say, here's what we have. Here are the boxes that we think it checks, at the end of the day. So, and then I added some of my own. Okay, so the first thing I have here is this commercial memorable? Does it hold your attention? Okay. Category 2. Is there a good and adequate amount of branding, brand placement in the ads so that beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is the brand that spent this $7 million? Let me just tell you this. If I spend $7 million on an advertising, you can cool believe that you're going to know what brand it is. Period. Okay. So that's that one. Now, the third one is, the first one was, does it hold your attention? The third one is, does it grab your attention? You have to have some sort of attention grabbing aspect of your ad for folks to watch it and hopefully remember it if they see it again. So is there something clever, unique, entertaining, funny? Is there anything that will grab the viewer's attention? Category 4. This is my question. If it were moi over here, would I pay $7 million for that ad? I'm pretending it's my money. And would I invest? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And so that was my question that I added. The next one, is it emotionally appealing? Emotionally appealing could mean, did it make me laugh? Did it evoke tears? Did it pull my heartstrings in some way? Was there some nostalgic feeling that was derived from looking at this ad? Is there something that I remember? Is there a recurring character or image that is reminiscent of this ad that I remember and I love and I look forward to seeing? So all of that stuff plays into it, and especially with $7 million. Okay. Next category Was it easy to understand? And by that, I mean, is the flow of it making sense when someone watches a commercial? Can they follow where you're going on this roadmap of concept? That's where we're going with that. Can the viewer follow it? And easy, is it easy to understand? And the next category is, are there any product or service features, benefits, any higher order things that you wanted them to connect with? Is any of that evident? Right. And then the last category that I have here is it on strategy for the brand? Does it make sense strategically what we're doing for this brand? Does it appeal and will it appeal to our primary target market? And by that, I mean the group of people with similar characteristics who are most likely to purchase your product or service. Does it resonate with them for $7 million? Okay, so that is my decision matrix that I created for myself. Some may call it decision criteria, and you can interchange those. But bottom line, I used this. I had 43 commercials that I saw. I narrowed it down to like 5 or 6. I ended up narrowing it down to 6. I used my decision matrix. I counted who rose to the top and who fell at the bottom, even with my top 6. Okay, so I had to rank them at the end of the day. And the 5th and the 6th place were very tough. Let me just tell you. Okay, so that's the criteria. So we've talked about what is promotion. We've talked about the 4 types of promotion. I gave you some fun facts, and I gave you my decision matrix criteria, etc. on this. So now I'm about to share with you who made it with the honorable mention, and that's like 6th place. And then we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Honorable mention goes to Amazon Alexa. Now, let me tell you, with this was a commercial where a real life celebrity couple, you see Scarlett Johansson there, and I think it's Colin Jost. They've been together for quite a while. They're, people really love them in Hollywood and such. He's on SNL as one of those comedic news anchors. And, Scarlett is like an A-list actress, all over the place. Now, they own an Alexa, which is that device which is voice activated, and you can ask Alexa questions or make requests, and she, tends to respond. Now, the question that they came up with is, what if this Alexa, started showing off and could read our mind? Now, with this clip right here, I got it from Hollywood News, and there was some talking on there, but I'll just play a little bit of it so you can, maybe I'll play the whole thing. It's only about a minute, right? So let's just indulge it. I thought it was just straight commercial, but it's not. So deal with it. Okay, hold on. Let's see. It's taking a second.
It's probably better Alexa can't read your mind.
Bad idea.
Married couple Scarlett Johansson and Colin Jost have teamed up for their first major brand campaign, and it's set to air during Sunday's big game.
Alexa, it's game day.
Streaming football on Prime Video, closing blinds, chilling rosé.
The pair appear on behalf of Amazon's Alexa in a new spot titled Mind Reader.
Rosé?
Well, it's an afternoon game.
It's like she can read your mind.
Cue a series of scenes imagining what life would be like if Alexa could read the couple's minds.
I love that we get to sleep in. Ordering fresh mouthwash. Extra strength.
And no surprise, Alexa having mind-reading powers might cause some trouble.
When you have to do those love scenes with hot guys, is that fun or is that like the worst?
It's the worst.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
The extended digital cut of the Mind Reader ads starring Johansson and Jost clocks in at 90 seconds. But the actual game day spot will be presented on NBC at 60 seconds. While this may mark the couple's first commercial together, it's not their first time sharing the small screen. The pair met while working together on NBC's Saturday Night Live and have been married since October 2020. For more on this story and the latest news, go to thr.com. For the Hollywood Reporter News, I'm Tiffany Taylor.
Okay, so thanks to Hollywood News for that clip. So we basically have a situation where I really thought that the ad was kind of funny, clever, right? I thought it was clever. And what did I say about it? However, I wouldn't pay $7 million for it. I didn't think it was emotionally appealing, and it's not because it's not entertaining. And when you watch the whole ad, you'll see what I mean. It is sort of entertaining, a clever spin on things, and a good branding, and all of that. But Scarlett is pretty laid back, and so is her husband. So if they are funny, right? They did like a dialed down version of that. And maybe that was the intention of the director of the commercial. But the thing is, for $7 million, I need a little more, comedic interludes there, just a little bit more, because they're excellent in what they do. And they both are funny, but I don't know if the energy of their delivery matched. It's like Alexa was funnier than the actual human being. So I don't know how I feel about that. And yes, it was intended to do a little over the topness with the device, but we're talking $7 million here. That's all I'm trying to say. And they probably commanded a pretty penny to be in that ad. So you let them work, honey. Let them work. That's all I have to say. But they had some plus and minus, and they did make honorable mention. So they almost got 5th place. But as you can see on the screen here, Coinbase was my number 5. So now, this commercial right here even got me on my phone trying to catch that little scan code, that QR code, whatever you call it. And I sure did. I went right on there, and it, allowed you to sign up for Coinbase and possibly tie into a promotion that they had, all kinds of clever things. No people, no acting, no product, no nothing. That little code was just bouncing on that screen like an Atari back in the day, ping pong or whatever that game was back in the day. That's what it reminded me of. So there was a slice of nostalgia there. And then it was just cute. Like, okay, let's see what the thing is talking about. Clever. The only commercial like that of its kind that weekend for the Super Bowl. I thought it was clever, brilliant, and it worked. And from what I read, post Super Bowl, they definitely got a lot of hits, from consumers who actually scanned the code. So they accomplished the goal, right? They really did. So I got to give them that. So let me see if it'll show up on here. Let's see what happens. Do you see what this thing is doing? It's bouncing on the screen. It literally did this right here the whole time. And you're just using your phone, just going around trying to catch it somehow. It's hilarious. You should have seen it. So there you go. Clever, simple, but I don't know if I would have paid $7 million, but it worked for them. And they knew that no one else would have this sort of commercial. So, gotta give it to them, right? Let's see if I can get to the next one. Number 4, Uber. Let me see what I talked about with this Uber, honey. Uber scored well with being memorable for me. The branding I thought was really good. It captured my attention. Where it scored low end, I don't know if I would pay $7 million. I'm tight on the coin, so I don't know. I don't know if the juice was worth the squeeze on that. Emotionally appealing, no, it was not for me, and it wasn't terribly funny. It was interestingly clever, but it wasn't memorable funny, if you know what I mean. It was memorable because of the slant of the context in which they were doing it. So basically, Uber has been known for, transportation, right? That's the positioning it's had. Well, they expanded their product line and to include Uber Eats, where, folks deliver food now with Uber company. And what they're trying to do is introduce this to the masses to say, not only can we transport you, we can transport your food to your home, for delivery. And so that's where, hopefully, if I can play this where you can hear it, a little bit of it, you'll see why I said it's clever. And there are some very popular actors in here as well.
If it was delivered with Uber Eats, does that mean I can eat it?
It says eat.
It's a diaper.
This tastes bad.
Ooh.
And thanks to Uber Eats, we don't even know what food is anymore.
This isn't food.
We can't eat any of this.
Why, Uber Eats? That bag's a liar.
Yeah, I just got so excited.
So now they're saying now delivering eats and don't eats. I thought that was really clever. Okay, the way they did that.
Delivered with Uber
Let's
Eats.
go to number 3.
Does that mean?
If it will let me. Number 3. See how I'm learning this app? It's kind of a delay. What can we do? But I do like the fact that I can talk and present. So number 3, Toyota. Let me just tell you something. This one right here. Now, it wasn't big on branding. In other words, there wasn't a lot of product placement throughout this ad. No, there may have been an old version of a Toyota at one point, and then at the end they hit you, that the last freeze frame with the Toyota name and like a slogan and stuff. But the story, it just pulls at your heartstrings. It keeps you in the story. I wanted to know what happened, was that sort of thing. And they called it Brothers. It takes us on a journey with some brothers who were apparently love each other a lot, competed a lot, were very athletic. And one of the brothers was facing eventual blindness, over time. And when that happened, they decided to continue to train and compete. And this guy's brother just trained him in such a way that he could know what to do even without his sight. Honey, when I tell you that this thing tugs at your heart, honey, I hope you can see a little bit of it. So let me just play a touch, because this app is stressing me already. Okay, hold on. So you see, the story just grabs you from the beginning, okay? It takes you in. You want to know what happens, and to know that this is a real life story and that they actually won the Paralympic medals, 10 times as brothers, as a unit. All of that is great. But guess what, though? In terms of my decision matrix, where they lost some points for me, were the product, more of the product benefits. I know it brings people together. Okay, that was a bit of a stretch, and it didn't have a lot of the car elements in there. So for a very long time, unless you knew that older car that was featured at the very beginning of the spot was in fact a Toyota, which we don't even know because it wasn't very prominent, and you would have to really be a car buff to know that. I thought there was a missed opportunity for $7 million, right? And then, was it on strategy? I deducted points there. I thought it was an excellent ad. It pulled my heartstrings. It did all those emotional things. It was memorable and all attention grabbing and all that. But you know what? If they hadn't put that Toyota at the end, I wouldn't have known what that brand was. So I'm going to need any brand that's spending $7 million, you need to let me know what it is well before the end. Okay, because I might not remember that Toyota was the company who did that. I may just say, hey, did you see that commercial about the brothers? That's cool, but you want to say that Toyota commercial about the brothers. You want it to be that memorable where it sticks in someone's mind. And I'm not really sure if they did quite enough of that in order to, but I love the story. Let me just say. So that one, was number 3 for me. Okay. Let's go to number 2 now. See if it'll let me again. Let me press this button twice and see what happens, you guys. Hopefully it'll let me. Here we go. Number 2, Squarespace. Now, let me set you up for this. So this commercial features some celebrities, and Zendaya's one. You have Andre, I think it's 3000 is in there. There's some people in there, and it's the cutest commercial that checks every box. I'm talking about from branding to the visual elements. They gave you enough repetitive cues visually and branding wise so you know exactly what it is. They even gave you some instructions, some information on how this thing works. Squarespace, think of Shopify, okay? As a competitor, it's a way for you to have an online store. And so when I saw Squarespace in my mind, I was like, the way they were explaining it, I was like, oh, so it's kind of like Shopify, right? So if you can create an association with an existing brand that's been out there for a minute and gaining traction, and consumers can kind of make that realization in their minds, but yet you're explaining, but no, here's how we're better and here's what we do for you. I think that was great. And so I gave them the number 2 spot because when I look at I'm looking at my list here, honestly, like they checked so many boxes for me. Now I go back to that 7 million, and the emotional appeal. I took some points off. I just didn't think it was all of that emotionally tugging at my heart. I thought the visuals were nice, and then I just felt like I wouldn't pay 7 million for it, but I thought, it was a good ad. You know what I mean? So let's watch it.
Sally sold seashells by the seashore, but the seashells didn't sell so well. So Sally set up a seashell store on Squarespace. Soon her seashells started selling. Sally was such a side sensation. She also sold swanky seashell accessories, seashell ready sessions, savory seaside snacks, even seashell excursions of the sea. Sally's seashells were so successful, she sailed into the sunshine as a seashell celebrity.
Shucks. Cute, right? So very short, sweet, cute. You get it. You understand what this company is about really quickly. I just thought they weaved the story very well, gave you enough visual so you can stay hooked, and then, hey, check us out. So I just thought it nailed a lot of those boxes. Now, my number 1 ad, the one that of the 43 that I watched, this is the one that tied nostalgia. It tied, some visual cues from what I'm calling the rainforest, where you see a bunch of possible or some sort of forest where you see some particular indigenous animals, and they're talking about the flaming hot Doritos. I think a lot of people would agree that they infuse some cultural cues with the music, and I'll give you a backdrop on that in a second, a little tidbit on that. And then they had a very entertaining, clever way to get us to arrive at the fact that this product has spicy flavor. It's hot for sure. They show you how hot it is in a clever, entertaining way. And this one is going to stick with folks. So let's see this, and hopefully it'll play where you can get the point of it.
Ooh, baby, 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 baby.
So there we go. So I'm laughing now. So the whole thing about the sloth, if you've seen one at the zoo or something, they are extremely slow moving animals. And so for the sloth to run and get the Doritos so that, the character, the actor would not, whoever that, person was, explorer, would not get those Doritos. I thought that was kind of funny. And then the fact that they played on Push It, which we happen to know is a Salt and Pepper, song, right? But guess who's singing it? Meg the Stallion. So you find out these little things behind the scenes, and it's just so clever. And, nod to Meg, for doing that. So I think this was probably, of all of the commercials out there, the most entertaining. It was creative. It had some comedic interludes in there that you kept you going. The branding was spot on. I got to give Doritos credit for that. They did a good job with that. And that is why this one was my number one. For sure, hands down. I mean, it checked all the boxes and did check them all. Let me see. Yeah, like pretty much, because even with the emotional appeal, Salt and Pepper, that's an era. That's something that's historical. So if you're into hip hop, you immediately know that song. Or if you go to dance clubs and things like that, you know that song. And so that hooks you right there. And then it's Doritos. I mean, come on now. They nailed it. Period. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide here. So the Coup Award. I just have to State Farm. Let me just tell you what coup they pulled. Now, all of these companies pay $7 million, right? That doggone State Farm totally skipped the Super Bowl, took to social media, from what I understand, went on over to the TikTok, honey, and they went and did an integrated, set of TikTok video things, honey. And, we do that for free. There's really no paying. You don't have to. You just put them out there. Do some really good TikTok trending, viral, recordings, and then infuse your product information. I thought that was the most clever, and it was genius. Okay. They saved $7 million. They went to a portal that would probably attract not only probably their primary target, which would be an older audience, but they need to expand their territory. So they went to a group of folks who are younger, a lot younger, who are entertainment focused, right? Who love to laugh and be entertained by TikTok. They are going after the younger target market. Maybe as a secondary target. And they know that if they start early, then these young folks will grow with them as they get older and start thinking about insurance. Hands down, the Coup Award this year goes to applause. Yes, to State Farm. Congratulations. And I'll keep these categories moving forward. Now, do not be sad thinking that I did not come up with 5 of the worst commercials that I came across. Now, I'm going to do that too, and I'll do it with, respect and finesse. But I have to say, there were some that if I use my decision matrix, they wouldn't have a lot of check marks, okay? And I would make it strategically sound as to why I think that. So be looking for a follow-up video on 5 of the not so great commercials of the Super Bowl 56 or 54. Yes, 56. Yes, I will do a subsequent video. Thank you so much for watching this. And listen, if you need me to cover a different topic of marketing or business for you, to break it down and make it make sense, leave a comment in the comment section for me. I will take a look-see and do my best to create programming for you. And Come back, tell others, again, do all of the things so that we can continue to get the word out that marketing is everywhere you are. So everything is on the table and up for discussion. Again, this is Pamela Jordan with Boss Up Marketing. I'll see you next time.